Here, I'll talk about Junker Queen a little bit, like with balance and like what I think about Junker Queen. So let's talk about Junker Queen for a second, and then we'll go into some more games. Okay, so when Junker Queen was first released, right, Command and Shout was the basis of how Junker Queen was going to be balanced, or how Junker Queen was going to be able to have a lot of HP and be able to bring a lot of value to the team. All right, so we'll talk about that a little bit. That was nerfed. And why was it nerfed? Because it ended up becoming a play style where Junker Queen was not only using it to save teammates, Junker Queen was also randomly saving teammates in 1v1s. Junker Queen constantly had the cooldown up. So they had a nerf Command and Shout, right? They had a nerf Command and Shout because Command and Shout became too OP, which meant that if they're going to buff Junker Queen, they have to find out ways to reevaluate how to make Junker Queen strong without buffing Command and Shout. So Command and Shout is still a part of the kit, right? Like Junker Queen is still a part of the, Command and Shout is still a part of the kit, but it's not a major part of the kit, correct? At this point now, it's become more of like an ability used to give Junker Queen a little bit of survivability, but not about making your teammates have that cooldown all the time. So now the question is how do you buff Junker Queen? Well, there's probably multiple ways you could do that. Obviously, I think one slight change that could be done for Junker Queen is maybe a little bit more HP, right? Maybe a little bit more HP. You go, well, with Command and Shout, you get extra HP. Yeah, but the problem with Command and Shout is it's the cooldown timer on it, right? We even look at other heroes right now, for example, like when Ramatra goes into Nemesis form, you can have your armor up technically a little bit longer, right? Because it's like an 8-second form in comparison to other like styles that you'll play. So Junker Queen runs into this issue where you have really low HP, you can't really push in too much, and your bleeds, to give you an idea, if I'm correct on this, if I was to take some damage here, one knife does 15 damage and then 19 heal, and you go, why does that make any sense? It's 1-to-1. Well, it used to be 1-to-1. Now I think it's 1.25 to 1 to damage. So they increased the multiplier. So for example, here's the knife. Now watch my HP. It was at 369. It should go up to 388. Yep, there it is. So I went up 19 HP. So in theory, say you get all 5 people in there with, you know, what, 18 HP. Say you get all 5 in it, and it doesn't get cleansed by Kiriko. I'll do my style of math here. That'd be what? 5 times 20 is 100, and then 2 porous will be like what? Like 90? 90? Is that correct? That's how I do math sometimes. You ever do that? You think bleed should have lifesteal? Yeah, bleed 92. We said 92? The bleed does have lifesteal though. Yeah, it's 90, right? Yeah. So, what are ways that you can, Dragon, thanks for the 5 months of the tier 1. Appreciate it. Thank you. So what are ways that, like, Junker Queen could be buffed in theory, right? He said make Command and Shout OP and give us the OWL meta? Yeah, but, like, that was tough. So, for anybody who didn't see the OWL meta, the OWL meta was a sustained meta where basically nothing happened. I'm not even kidding you. You would go full rounds of Koth with no ults. Like, Junker Queen wouldn't even get an ultimate because overshields didn't count towards ult charge. They actually had to change that to make it so you get 50% ult charge off of overshields. So, an example of an overshield would be Command and Shout. When you have that shield right there, you get 50% of the ult charge instead of the 100% you would normally get. Same thing with, like, Wrecking Ball. Same thing with, like, Brig ult, Beat. They changed a little bit because they changed how things worked in Overwatch, too, so he's pretty much the same thing across the board. So you get 50% on that one, so... Yes, they made a change because of Junker Queen, I'm pretty sure specifically, that you get 50% ult charge off of overshields now instead of 100%. Well, it used to be 0%, right? Like Wrecking Ball, whenever you would use like your ball like E, which would be like your overshield, you wouldn't get any ult charge from ball when ball used that. Jet for sale, thanks to 33 months of the Features Prime sub. Appreciate it, thank you. So then it's like, so where we're at now with Junker Queen is Junker Queen has, I think it's 1.25 multiplier now on the heals. So for example, you get healed for 19, then obviously with Carnage it would be a little bit more. I think 2 things that could probably buff Junker Queen, make Junker Queen better, maybe 3 things. 1, increasing HP just by a little bit. Gives more survivability to Junker Queen. Overwatch 2 has a lot of high damage, especially with less shields. Junker Queen is obviously the tank, which means there won't be any shields during that. So Junker Queen will take a little bit more damage, and with them increasing the hitbox size of Junker Queen in one of the recent patches, which technically kind of made the changes to Junker Queen not necessarily a nerf, but kind of almost broke even. I feel like that puts Junker Queen in a spot where extra HP could help. You could also increase the damage a little bit, so that way, if the damage is increased and the multiplier is at 1.25, it would also increase the healing, right? So, if the healing, if the multiplier is 1.25 now, if you increase the damage, it also increases the healing, right? So, for example, right now, the knife does 15 damage, the bleed does. You get 19 HP. So if they increase the damage on that, you would also get increased healing without actually like changing those numbers around. If they didn't change them, the increased damage would actually also increase the healing, which would add a little bit more sustain. So there's that option. You know, I think Chad had said that Flats recommended increasing the hitbox size of Gracie. So what that means is like, you know, the bots have a pretty big hitbox to begin with. So what you would want to do is have it so the knife is a little bit larger of a hitbox. Kind of like, here, Chad, you want to see something? You want to see a little bit of a trick? You ready for this, chat? And I think this is kind of reference to like the hitbox size. I'm going to show you something. All right, chat. You want a tip to hitting your javelins? You want a tip to hitting your javelins? Are you ready for this? Watch this. Let me see. I might miss it the first time, but get ready. All right, watch. You notice anything? See, okay, see, look where I'm at. Look where my crosshair is. You ready? Yeah. That's a tip to hitting javelins. So the point of making Junker Queen's Gracie have a similar effect is not a bad idea. I mean, having that bleed proc a little bit more is obviously like a good thing, right? So what I mean is that, you know, you could increase the size of Gracie also. And that's an idea that Flats has suggested, and I don't disagree with it. I think it'd be a good idea, right? Because as you notice right there, even with Javelin, the hitbox and Javelin is very huge, so why not do the same thing for Gracie? It doesn't do as much damage, doesn't have the same effect, and has more healing to it, right? So there's a few things you could definitely do about that. Another recommendation I've seen people say could maybe be helpful for Junker Queen is, you see the Carnage? It has a little bit of cast time. What if you reduce the cast time of Carnage? What if it's a little bit easier to get Carnage off, right? Because sometimes you almost have to pre-fire your Carnage. So what I do on Junker Queen is I pre-fire Carnage, right? Like that. I have to almost use Carnage before I even get to them to guarantee I can get them because they can just back away from the Carnage, right? So like, preferably, I would like to have more of like a, maybe you could reduce the cast time on Carnage. Then there can also be like other arguments like, well, Kiriko. And yes, I agree. Kiriko was one of the main reasons why Junker Queen is also a lot worse than Junker Queen could be. Junker Queen is completely countered by Kiriko. There's been a lot less hard counters in Overwatch 2 now. Junker Queen and Kiriko is one of those hard counters. It's just, everything you do is countered by a Suzu, right? And a lot of Junker Queen is like the bleed up time. If you don't have that going, you're not going to do as well on Junker Queen in comparison, right? Even if you get like a decent ult off, what ends up happening is a lot of Kiriko's won't, if they know that Junker Queen has ult, this is what Kiriko's will do, right? So you know Junker Queen has ultimate, you don't stay stacked with your team. You go, why wouldn't you? Like, why? So let's say that Junker Queen ults right here, right? See this right here? This little spot? I'm right here, and then Junker Queen ults, gets me, and gets them over here with the ultimate because the range is pretty big. What does Kiriko do at that point? You go, oh, wow. That means that more than likely, at this range, you know, at least one person's going to be in the suit. I mean, one person's going to be purpled by the ultimate. Well, here's the problem. Right? When Kiriko swift steps, it gets rid of the purple. So if the Kiriko is playing out of range of, or is in range of Junker Queen ultimate, they don't even have to use Suzu on themselves at that point. Like, she doesn't have to use Suzu on herself. She can teleport to somebody, which will clear off the bleed, and then Suzu the team, and the whole ultimate is countered at that point. Don't even have to use it on, like, literally can just teleport to somebody, and it cleanses the whole ultimate. So Junker Queen gets countered by Kiriko. So this, you know, I've seen a couple people say, well, what if the ultimate can't be like cleansed? What if they change the like way the interaction works where you can't cleanse Junker Queen ultimate? Could work, maybe. Would that make the L2 OP? I don't know, maybe, right? Who knows? So there's definitely variations to buffing Junker Queen, and I think a lot of what I suggested is probably what we'll see. At the same time, we have no idea, because when we had that, when we had Alec on Flats and I stream, Alex said there's going to be some spicy changes to Junker Queen. We could see changes we're not even thinking of. So I'm really curious to see what happens, right? I think Junker Queen is one of the, at least in my opinion, one of, actually, a lot of the tanks are really fun to play. Junker Queen is just a fun tank to play. So I would definitely love to see Junker Queen played a lot more, right? So what those changes will be, I'm not sure of, but those are some things that I wouldn't doubt that we see, whether it's increased damage, whether it is you know, the ultimate not being as countered as hard, the ultimate being better, more damage. When you have more damage, keep in mind, the reason why I don't necessarily mention more healing, right? When I don't mention more healing, it's because the damage, so with the bleed, right? It has like a modifier to it. So it's 1 point, oh, hello. It's 1.25 right now. So if you increase the damage, whatever the damage is would then be 1.25 of what that damage is healing wise. So the damage also increases the healing. So that's why I'm not really talking about the damage output. I actually think, and chat might agree or disagree with me, I think the damage on the shotgun is pretty good. You know what I mean? I feel like the damage on the shotgun's pretty solid. It's not like a lot of damage, but I feel like it's really consistent. So I don't think that is where you would increase the damage at. You can increase it with the bleeds and like other areas, which then increases the healing. So, you know what I'm saying? Yeah, like I said, I don't think that they should, like, in my opinion, I don't think that it should be a situation where Junker Queen's ultimate can't be countered in that type of scenario. But it's also kind of what had to happen with Roadhog too. So, you ever notice with Roadhog's ultimate, where Roadhog's ultimate is just, you cannot counter it. You can prevent it from happening a little bit. Maybe like the interaction of whatever causes the bleed during the ultimate changes. But I don't think that's what they're gonna do, and I don't expect that to be a change. Just one of the random suggestions that I've seen across the board with Junker Queen. I still think it's very much going to be more about a survivability buff with HP and then maybe some increased damage, which then increases the healing. At this point, once again, we will continue to run into the issue with Kiriko just countering Junker Queen, but obviously I think changes to Kiriko will eventually come. Yeah. So anyway, there's my completely random take and discussion about Junker Queen. I hope you enjoyed. I wanted to talk about that a little bit. I just think those are some changes that you might see. All right. Anyway, that was fun.